Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Allevo seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. Well, it's out, and if you're wondering what that is, every year people start looking for the next year's fair schedule. The 2026 fair schedule is out. Ohioans can start planning visits to all their favorite fairs across the state. The Ohio Department of Agriculture released those official dates for fair season today, which includes Ohio's 94 county and independent fairs, as well as the Ohio State Fair. The Paulding County Fair will kick off the 26 fair season on June 6th, and the season will wrap up in October on the 17th at the Fairfield County Fair. For a complete schedule, go to our website at ohioagnet.com, and you can look up each of the fairs from there. In addition to setting and approving the dates for the independent county fairs, ODA is responsible for helping to assure the safety of fair amusement rides, monitoring livestock shows to help assure honest competition, and coordinating animal health efforts with local veterinarians. The American Carbon Alliance applauds Representatives Mike Flood, Sharice Davids, and Troy Carter and Tracy Mann for championing bipartisan legislation to strengthen Section 45Z and provide long-term certainty for clean fuel producers. The Securing America's Fuel Act reinstates the higher $1.75 credit rate for sustainable aviation fuel and extends the credit to 2033. Two critical components needed to accelerate investment and secure new demand for American-grown biofuels. Restoring the full 45Z credit and extending it to 2033 gives farmers and producers the certainty they've been missing, and it opens the door to new aviation markets. That means more demand, stronger prices, and real economic growth in rural America, said Tom Buss, American Carbon Alliance CEO. The ACA strongly supports bipartisan efforts that ensure agriculture remains the backbone of America's energy future. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
More precipitation trying to work into the Buckeye State today. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that forecast update. Another clipper trying to move out of the upper Midwest and across the Great Lakes. This one taking a little bit more of a southern track. Low pressure early this morning moved across southern Wisconsin, just north of Chicago, and it'll spend the rest of the day today tracking across southern lower Michigan. And eventually it kind of meanders down into northern parts of Ohio here late this afternoon and evening. So because of that, I think we have a better chance at precipitation today. Not a lot in terms of amount. Coating to an inch or two of snow is what we can see over the next 24 hours or so. Best chances near Lake Erie, especially in northeastern Ohio. But you get the idea. There's inclement weather around. I think we take a bit of a break for tomorrow, Thursday. There's still some decent winds coming across the Great Lakes, picking up a little bit of moisture, but it's not a huge lake effect outbreak. And I think we see clouds and sunshine farther south in the state. Clipper number 3 for the week tries to work in on Thursday night into Friday morning. Honestly, it dives a little bit too far south, misses most of us, so southwest Ohio can see a fresh dusting of snow in there, but nobody else seems to see a whole lot. And then we finish out our week of very active precipitation with another system coming through overnight Saturday night through Sunday. Can see several inches of snow out of that, but the bigger story is going to be what that system draws down, which is brutal cold Arctic air for Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday, and into Tuesday. Bundle up. It's going to be nasty. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. USDA increased corn exports, which dropped ending stocks. Also, USDA increased corn exports to 3.2 billion bushels, a record for corn exports, which led to lowering corn ending stocks. And Tuesday's U.S. ending stocks estimates were slightly bullish for corn, neutral for soybeans, and neutral for wheat, according to DTN lead analyst Rhett Montgomery. World ending stocks estimates from USDA were slightly bullish for corn, neutral for soybeans, and slightly bearish for wheat, he said. And of course, we'll get more comments on that report and our grain analysis coming up with Ryan Martin in a few minutes. The livestock side of the World Egg Supply and Demand Estimate says beef production for 2025 was increased as both fed and non-fed slaughter has increased and as carcass weights continue to be at an all-time high. Beef production for 2025 is now estimated at 25,950 million pounds, up 194 million pounds from last month's report. Beef production for 26 increased from last month's report as well, now estimated to total 25,725 million pounds. That's up 335 million pounds from last month's estimate. Steer prices in the fourth quarter of 25 are expected to average $226. That's down $8 from last month. Steers in the first quarter of 26 are expected to average $230. That's down $12 from last month. And steers in the second quarter of 26 are expected to average $234, down $11 from last month's report. Now it looks like the beef imports for 2025 are lowered by 20 million pounds, and beef exports for 2025 are lowered by 45 million pounds as well. Beef imports for 2026 were increased by 500 million pounds as reduced tariffs will affect the influx of beef, but beef exports were decreased by 40 million pounds. Tuesday's World Egg Supply and Demand Report shared mixed news for the hog and pork markets of 25 and 26. Pork production for 25 was decreased by 25 million pounds, and pork production for 26 remained steady at 27,475 million pounds for 26. Quarterly price projections also saw a decrease as hog prices in the fourth quarter of 25 are expected to average $64, down $2 from last month's report. The hog prices in first quarter of 26 are expected to average $64, down $1, and hog prices in the second quarter of 26 are expected to average $70, unchanged. And the hog prices for third quarter of 26 expected to average $71, also unchanged from last month's report. In a separate article, let's look more at beef and pork exports. Following the growth in 2025, beef and pork exports by major traders are forecast to decline in 2026. In contrast, chicken meat shipments will continue to climb, reaching a record level. Global meat trade has faced a series of notable shifts since 2019, whereas 2017 and 18 were marked by rates of growth in line with historical averages. Pork trade surged in 2019 and 20, driving world meat trade higher and surpassing beef trade volumes in 2020 and 21. The remarkable escalation of pork trade was driven by increased China demand stemming from African swine fever outbreaks, which decimated its domestic production. In 2022 and 23, world meat trade declines as expansion of beef and chicken trade failed to offset lower China pork demand, with lower feed prices in 24 and 25 partnered with relatively fewer significant disease outbreaks in major trading countries. Global exports made gains across all meats, particularly on robust U.S. beef imports due to lower domestic production. With tighter beef supplies in Oceania, Brazil, and the United States, beef trade is expected to decline in 26 despite strong demand. Pork exports will also shrink as lower EU production constraints shipments. Only chicken meat, with robust exportable supplies from Brazil and China, is forecast to grow. Back with more after this.
When you combine the advanced technology of Enlist E3 soybeans with Seed Consultants' dedication to performance in the Eastern Corn Belt, it's a simply better experience. Our Seed Consultants brand soybeans are hand-selected, tested, and proven to perform in your conditions, backed by the local knowledge of Seed Consultants sales professionals. Bind to better soybeans with reliability and results packed into every variety. Visit seedconsultants.com.
Attention farmers, Jim and Jody Johnson are retiring and their premium equipment is heading to Purple Wave's December 30th Ag Auction. Don't miss their 2024 John Deere ExactEmerge 1775 NT Planter and 2019 John Deere S760 Combine. This retirement auction features well-maintained machinery that's been part of a successful farming operation with equipment located in Osage, Iowa. Everything sells. Absolute no reserve to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com for details. Purple Wave Auction, straight, simple, sold.
Argentina's soybean exports in 25-26, that'd be October through September, are forecast at 8.3 million tons, the highest in 6 years, driven in part by several adjustments to export taxes in the past year. The most impactful was September's temporary elimination of export taxes on several agricultural products, removing the 26% soy and 24.5% soybean meal and soybeans oil taxes until the end of October, or until export sales declarations for all affected products reached a $7 billion cap. This cap was reached in only 3 days and resulted in over 3 million additional tons of soybean export sales registered for Argentina's 24-25 local year. That's April 25 through March of 26. Most of these sales were registered for delivery between October and December of this year. Argentine soybean meal exports in 25-26 are forecast at 29 million tons, while soybean oil exports are forecast at 6.2 million tons. Export volumes for both products are expected to be higher than most years on record, but less than 24-25 year. Today's market analysis is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company, excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. For marketing information on your beans to LDC, call 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished mixed on Tuesday. It was USDA report day with the WASDE coming out. Let's kind of run through that just a little bit before we get to anything else. Most of the market was taking a look at the soybean side of things, and well, it was dull on the soybean side. No changes in anything on the balance sheet on USDA on soybeans. We also did not see any new export sales announcements. The WASDE came and went with no changes to supply and demand on beans. Minor changes on corn. We'll get to that in a little bit. The changes to balance sheets had mostly been telegraphed for weeks, especially on the corn side. USDA lifted the 25-26 corn exports by 125 million bushels, up from the November number. That facilitated a drop in the ending stocks. We're now 2.029 billion bushels on ending stocks. That is getting close to interesting. Sub 2, you can definitely see some support in the corn complex. Now, beans, again, left completely unchanged. All wheat supply and demand was completely unchanged. Hard red winter wheat or hard red spring wheat stocks were hiked by 5 million bushels on lower projected exports. White wheat stocks were trimmed a little bit, but again, not a big deal. On the global side, corn ending stocks came in at 279.1 million metric tons. That was down about 2 million. Beans steady to a little bit more than last month, and the wheat markets were up about 3.5 million metric tons. So it was really a snooze fest report overall. As we take a look at other stories in the marketplace, don't forget, Argentina trimmed their grain and soy export taxes slightly to start this week in an effort to boost foreign ag demand. That would further challenge U.S. corn, soybean, and soy product exports during and after the winter months. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Overnight at the open, March corn down a half at $4.47.5. January beans down 2.5 at $10.84 and July new crop wheat down 3/4 at $5.49 In livestock at yesterday's close, December cattle down 50 cents at $226.82. February up 27 at $226.95. Hogs just the opposite. December is up 20 cents at $82.50. February down 52 cents at $81.87. All the feeder cattle are lower. March is down 27 cents at $330.15. This is the Ohio AgNet.